Okay,
Oh, I was going
good.
to do a. Oh, okay, sorry.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year and good afternoon if you're joining us somewhere where it's the afternoon. This afternoon, it's the first webinar of the year here in the TEFL Development Hub, and I'm joined by the awesome Emily Bryson, who's going to be inspiring us with her very simple visuals to really help our students in the ELT classroom and beyond as well. Emily's going to be telling us a little bit later about her course, which is starting in a week on Monday. And I know that some of the people in the hub have already taken part in it, and it looks really exciting. And that, they've been saying great things about how it's really helped with their teaching skills. So looking forward to hearing about that. So Emily is here today to talk all about graphic facilitation. She is based in the UK, working in ESOL. So obviously a lot of her students come needing a lot of visual support as well. And also this year, you've got your Voices from National Geographic coming out.
So the launch is very, very soon. I'm excited about that.
Which levels of that were you involved in?
I wrote co-authored the beginner level and the pre-intermediate level and the pre-intermediate workbook.
Okay. And do you enjoy working with those lower levels?
Yeah, I love the lower levels. I find them very, just good fun, and you can, I feel like you can get more activities, and although there's not the same amount of interaction, you can still have some quite deep conversations with them through very minimal words, and I quite like that challenge. So yeah, and getting your point across, and graphic facilitations really helped me with doing that.
Fabulous.
In many ways.
And I mean, you're going to tell us more about it in a minute, but before we start, is it aimed more at adult learners? What's your kind of context in the UK?
So I teach ESOL to adults, mostly refugees and asylum seekers, but also some EU migrants, not so many since Brexit, but when I first started, lots of EU migrants. So so I've been teaching at the college now for about 14 years, I think. And for the last few years, I've taught lots of different levels. I've taught ESOL for vocational purposes. I've wrote ESOL for vocational purposes courses. But at the moment, I'm focusing on low levels and literacy. And graphic facilitation's been particularly good at that, but I'll talk about that more later. Yep.
And so obviously these are the ideas that you've been using with your adults, but I guess they're equally able to be used with young learners, with teenagers.
Yeah, you can use it in so many contexts. It's very versatile. So I use it in my teaching, but I also use it for my social media posts and for my webinars, so my teacher training. I use it to make my own plans, to write birthday cards for people, sending Christmas cards. I drew them myself, all sorts of different reasons, really.
That's really cool, because we were talking about, there was a post before Christmas about using graphic organizers, and we were talking then about using them for lesson plans.
So you can use them for lesson plans, for reflecting after a lesson, for getting your students to reflect on their own learning or to plan their own learning. You can use it for so many things. If you check out my blog, there will be you've got lots and lots of ideas on there.
Yes, I'll share a link to the blog. I was looking through, I love the idea of the fairy feedback.
The fairy feedback is very popular. So I found that out when I was doing did a secondment with the Scottish Refugee Council doing a peer education project. And one of the facilitator, the trainer there, used a lot of graphic facilitation, which is I guess she was kind of my first introduction to graphic facilitation. And so she taught me about the feedback fairy. And there's many more exciting ways than Google Forms to take feedback, and the feedback fairy is one of them.
Cool. Awesome. Well, looking forward to hearing more and more about graphic facilitation. So I'll stop asking you questions for now.
Cool. Okay. So I'll just, can I change the slide? Okay, so I'll give a quick introduction to me. So I am an ELT author. So I have written 3 books for National Geographic at the moment. I've also got the 50 Ways to Teach Life Skills and the A to Z of ESOL. I'm a teacher trainer. I'm a graphic facilitator. I'm a teacher, so I teach a lot of adult literacy, as I mentioned before. I'm quite big on inclusion and inclusion. I'm an outdoors fanatic. In my spare time, I like cycling, running, swimming, anything that gets me outside, really, and especially hugging trees. So I'm a bit of a fan. I'm a member of the Scottish Redwood Trust, and I like finding giant redwoods and hugging them on my adventures. So that gives you a little bit of a flavour of me. Some advantages of drawing. So I first got into graphic facilitation when I was doing my secondment with the Scottish Refugee Council a good few years ago now. And when I returned to the college, a graphic facilitator came into the college and showed me a few very simple icons that I could use in the class. And I was immediately inspired and completely hooked. So I signed up to her course. And since then, I've been basically doing as many online courses and reading as much about it as I possibly can. And basically, I've come to the conclusion that it's a superhuman strength for teachers. It kind of adds that extra little something that you need to support your learners. It also rejuvenated my teaching mojo. As I said before, I've been teaching for 14 years, and you can kind of go through little slumps if you're anything like me. And graphic facilitation just gave me that extra little boost to get me back on track and give me some excitement about my teaching, because now I go into class and I'm like, oh, pens, what can I do now? Great. But there's also many, many other advantages. So it's a great way to give feedback to students and to help them to support each other to give feedback. It aids memory. There have been lots of research to show that it can help with memorizing vocabulary. So WAMES and Mead have a research study that they gave some participants a list of words to remember. And one group had to remember just the words with writing, and then others had to write the words and have drawings as well. And the ones who drew were the ones who remembered the most. So I think that has a lot to say for learning vocabulary and for taking notes of vocabulary. So now when I teach my students, I encourage them to do simple drawings alongside their notes to give them something to remember.
Do you find that the students are quite receptive to that as well?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about that later. So okay, I'll just jump onto that now. But so this year I decided to do a bit of inaction research. For a couple of years, for the last few years, I've been encouraging students to use it and copy my drawings. And they've been mostly receptive, not all of them. I'm not going to push anybody. If they don't want to draw, that's fine. But I find if students who are learning Roman script, or sometimes in some cases learning to read and write for the first time in any language, they don't have it's really good for pen control skills. If you think about kids learning to draw, they'll start by doodling, they'll start by doing scribbles, and then they'll start by doodling, and then after that they'll start forming letters. So if you're teaching someone script for the first time, it's actually a very good way of supporting their pen control. But also if they don't have any they don't have any script in their first language, then they can't really take notes for memory. So putting a simple drawing beside it is a great way to help them remember, rather than writing a definition in their first language, which they might not be able to do, for example. It's also great fun, and it's creative, and it supports learning. It's stimulating. It uses the brain, gets people thinking. It's great for critical thinking. You can get students to do tasks like draw something, or how am I going to draw this? How am I going to draw motivation? Don't know, good way to think about it. Or you can have them draw something and think, what is that? Not sure what that is. You can show them like a bit of a picture, like cover part of a picture. What is that? And it's a great way to check understanding. You can ask them to draw something really simple. What does this mean? Or what is an onion, for example? And then they draw what an onion is, and then you know that they've understood, for example. So many, many advantages to drawing in the classroom.
I love that idea as well about the critical thinking, because one of your posts before Christmas was was it not a snowman? That was the original one.
Oh, yes. So it's not a
Yeah.
snowman. So it's that came from hashtag it's not a gingerbread man. So it's basically somebody's drawn half of a gingerbread man and they have to draw anything but a gingerbread man with those templates. If you go to my blog, emilybrysonelt.com, you will see those templates. You'll be able to download them. And I think it's like the second or third, might be my last blog post. And you'll get the idea. So you basically draw. And also if you go to Twitter and then type in hashtag drawing ELT, Stephanie Valerio has actually did it with her class and she posted the pictures of it and it's amazing. So thank you, Stephanie, if you're here or if you're listening at any point. So just what is graphic facilitation? Basically, graphic facilitation is using very simple icons and iconography, drawing simple icons to communicate a point. So these icons, graphic facilitators see them as a visual vocabulary. So it's very much like learning a language. Just as you'd learn vocabulary in a language, you learn how to draw. So you start with some basic shapes, basic drawings, basic icons, and then you build up your visual vocabulary. The more vocabulary you have, the easier it is to communicate. So in graphic facilitation, it's not about the quality of the drawing, it's about getting the point across. So I have this motto, feel the fear and draw anyway. So you'll notice, and actually if you go through my blog, there's a whole load of pictures that make me think, oh, why did I post that? And this is a bit ski-whiff, this is a bit squint, doesn't really matter, it's getting the point across. You can see that this is a teacher, you can see that these are people, and it gets the idea across. In graphic facilitation, there's a lot of visual templates, things like graphic organizer. I'll show you visual templates later. Graphic organizers, using sketch notes, so drawing when you're writing. I find it very useful when at the moment there's lots of webinars and I find that I can get distracted easily in a webinar. But if I start sketchnoting, then I can focus for the entire time. And then also I've got a note that is very easy and quick to refer back to.
And I found as well, because you were sketchnoting at the Innovate conference and the sessions that I'd attended that you'd been in, like, you know, a couple of months later when I was looking at your blog, and I was like, yeah, I remember everything about this session from your sketch notes. It was
good.
better looking at that than my own notes. It was amazing.
Yeah. And then it's right, rather than a little page full of text that just looks the same, and then you end up with a notebook full of text that every page is the same, black and white with lines, black and white with lines. Where did I put that? If you put a picture beside it and you're talking about a certain vocabulary topic, for example, then you can instantly find it.
Yeah,
much easier to find.
Much clearer.
Yeah, much easier to find. So that's what graphic facilitation is. If you've got any questions, just write them in Facebook in the chat and I'll answer them at the end. So I wasn't sure what the format of this was. So usually I ask my participants to annotate, but this time it's just going to be Teresa annotating. Do you know how to annotate, Teresa?
I think so, yeah. Hang on.
Okay, so if you go to your viewing, the green bar, that should say you're viewing Emily Bryson's screen, and then go down to annotate.
Yes, right.
And then you'll see this bar, and then it's mostly the text that I need you to use.
Okay.
Okay. Oops. Okay, and in the chat, you can get involved in the chat at the same time. So there's two pictures. There's one on the right and one on the left. So this, the one on the right is what my whiteboards used to look like. And the one on the left is the one that my whiteboards used to look like. The one on the left is the one that my whiteboards look like now. And you'll notice that the pictures, I mean, that foot, there's something very strange about that foot, but it's okay because it took me 10 seconds to draw it, probably less, and the students know what it is. The spoon, also a little bit questionable, but that's okay. It gets the point across. The whole point in graphic facilitation is getting the point across and communicating. So I'd like you to, in the chat, or if you're Teresa, you can also use the ticks or the hearts here Just put a mark. Which whiteboard do you think is the most supportive for learners? Yeah. And which one is the most engaging? Okay, and which one, if you were learning a language that it had a new script, or just if you were learning a language really, which one would you prefer your teacher to have? Which one would you prefer if you were learning, if you were a beginner? Yep, that's pretty much how I sum up the superhuman power of being a graphic facilitator and an English language teacher. It just adds an extra bit of super simple support to your lessons. And actually, I stopped drawing when Google Images came out and started just going to Google Images. And I still do for certain things, because some things are just simpler to go to. But if you've got a whiteboard in front of you and you've got the ability to draw and to give students examples of how to, like, I'll give them pages of vocabulary with my simple drawings, and it's very easy for them to copy. And the whole process of copying that and copying the drawings helps them remember.
I guess that's it as well, like you say, having a simple model, because although Google Images, it might give it something, I don't know, more detailed, more ornate, but actually what you really want is something that really gets the idea across, and then they can copy it themselves.
Yeah, and something that's not intimidating, like the mere fact that that foot's pretty odd makes it very unintimidating, and I think students are more confident to go ahead and try it if they are not intimidated by it. Mm-hmm. So in essence, you don't really want to look that good. You want it to be a little bit not perfect. So,
and perfect. Talking about kind of going and finding Google Images, what did you find has been the difference between working in person and working online, and how has that affected what you've been able to do with your images?
Yeah, so when I'm working in person, I definitely use the whiteboard more. I use a visualizer online, but it does take a little while to get, I mean, not that long really, a couple of seconds, but it feels like a transition between, oh, hold on, like when you're sharing your screen. Mm-hmm. Just wait a minute while I get the visualizer sorted. So you don't want to do too much flitting between that. And it is easier sometimes to just flip between tabs into Google Images than to wait while I draw this. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I use it for online. I use a lot of annotation tools, pre-drawing things. And you'll see in the background there, it takes a little bit of shuffling about. That's my flip chart, which I've basically just attached to my wall with panel pins. Mm-hmm. And then I need to shuffle my webcam around. So if I'm going to use that in class, I need to plan it beforehand so that my webcam's on the correct screen. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'll talk a bit more about that. About when I've got some pictures of ways to do it online and in person. So this is one of my students. I was very happy this year. I decided, so I'm a mentor for the OTLA, Outstanding Teaching, Learning and Assessment group, and for action research. And I decided this year to do a bit of in-action research. So in previous years, I have asked my students to actively encourage them to draw. This year, I decided I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to say a thing. I'm just going to draw and see what they do. And within maybe 4 weeks, students just started drawing, and their notebooks just started having these really simple drawings in them. And this is one of my students who was in the literacy class, now is a beginner. And you'll see that he's just gone ahead and copied my very simple images from the whiteboard. And I know that he's understood what they are. If he'd, well, this was online work, so I'd set them a task. What are they? They are, and they had to write, and then put the picture, and then they had to write what they were. And most students just sent me, what are they? They are watches. But I had no idea. Do they know what watches are? I don't know. But because he had actually drawn the watch, I knew exactly what he'd done. So
And I love it there with Dee as well, that he's like self-corrected.
Yeah,
It's
yes.
not just one, it's they are chairs.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see all of that. Yeah, and maybe actually the process of drawing 3 helped him to remember the difference between it and they as well. Okay, so these are the ways that I deliver online and in person. So in person, I've got a very big whiteboard in the college, which is beautiful. I online, I've got a visualizer, which is this thing. It's basically a document camera. You can get them for £30-ish online. You can get ones that have lights on top as well, which are pretty good. I normally just put my ring light on top if it gets a bit dark. And then you can also take pictures with Cam Scanner. So Cam Scanner is a free app. And then I take the picture and then send you can go to Magic Color. There's different formats, but I choose the Magic Color option and it just brings it up quite cartoony or just very bright, vivid colors. And then the other option, sorry.
Cam Scanner, is that taking photos with the visualizer or with your phone?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes, with my phone. Yeah, so it's an app on your phone and you can just take pictures with it. There are actually visualizer apps. I can never remember the names of them. Varying qualities. So yeah, if you've got like a little tripod, you can put your camera and then connect it to your computer or your laptop or whatever, and then do it that way too. So yeah, visualizer would be live, Cam Scanner do the picture and then take do it after. Take the picture and then upload it beforehand. And then you can also have a flip chart on your wall where you can draw live at the same time as well. And the beauty of flip charts actually is if you create something, a masterpiece, you can reuse it, just roll it up and use it again and again and again. So I've got, I'll show you later, when I get to my digital swamp or to my swamp, which I've used for digital skills before. I keep calling it my digital swamp. It's just my swamp. When I get to my swamp, that's one of the flip charts that I use often and again. Okay, so now is when Teresa gets to use our annotation tools again.
I'm going to plug myself in a second. Okay. I'm running out of battery.
All right, okay. So this is, so it's the beginning of the year. And so I'd like to reflect on 2021. And so this is a visual template which you can use to get people thinking about I've used it in various ways to reflect on an action research project. So I've used it in mentoring. I've used it with my students to reflect on their learning. You can also flip it around and have it going forward. So my blog post from yesterday, I think, it was an old blog post, but I shared it on social media yesterday, was about planning. So 5-year plan, where do you want to be? So you'd maybe have, so I'm just going to annotate. So here, this would be the future. If you were using this as planning, and then you work back from there. But in this case, we're reflecting. So this is January 2021, and this is now. And Teresa's going to look back on 2021, and we've got some icons as props here. So this is people and lots of family and friends. What good things happened with family and friends in 2021?
I did a virtual escape room with my sisters and my mum.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It was. We dressed as pirates and everything.
Oh, nice. I did one of those in York when I was visiting a friend recently, and yeah, I loved it. They're so good.
Yeah, I've done like real live ones before, and then this obviously being online and in different countries. So we did it virtually. Great fun.
Ah, cool. Add virtual to that. Great. Okay. And then good things that happened or things that you did in terms of studying or personal development.
I started German classes.
Ooh. So for anybody that's doing this live, feel free to take a quick drawing and make some notes as you go to add your own. And then you can share it on social media with hashtag drawing ELT. What about anything else that you learned or development?
To be honest, I've switched off from work for the past 2 weeks, so my brain's not really in it. I've probably done lots. I set up an online course for some teachers.
Nice. What was the online course?
It's for teachers who are based in Ecuador. So it's kind of just, I do something every couple of weeks, just some sort of skills, things they can use in the classroom.
Oh, nice. Sounds good. And okay, worky stuff. What highlights of your work highlights from last year?
So attending Innovate. I love Innovate.
Innovate was great. I really liked it. I like that it's small.
Yeah, it was the one that I felt the easiest in terms of being online as well. Because other conferences that I went to that I would have gone to in real life felt very different. Just like the buzz and being able to see people and things. But yeah, do like Innovate.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think because it was small and we were using Zoom, so it was familiar, and I liked the little room where you could meet people in between. They had like a kind of the networking room. That was good. What about anything to do with home?
Just gonna shout out to my wall.
Oh yeah, I know.
I'm in love with my wall at the moment. Sorry, everybody.
I'm in love with your wall too.
My pride and joy of the last 2 weeks.
It's amazing. Yeah, well done on that. Might have to do that myself. You're going to need a mural behind mine.
No artistic talent needed. It's fantastic.
Yeah. You don't need to talk about the money one. I feel like that's maybe putting you on the spot, but if you do, feel free.
I bought a scratch card the other day, but I didn't win anything.
Okay. Well, fingers crossed. And fun things that happened in 2021.
Lots of fun things. Possible highlight was 40th birthday.
Oh, cool.
So my husband and I went out for lunch and had a few beers and just a nice chilled day. It was lovely.
Good. Okay, so within that, you would get your students to talk about that together, maybe in pairs or in small groups, or you could have it as a flip chart or draw it on your whiteboard and then have students put sticky notes on it. If you were doing it in Zoom, you could do it like this and have all the students adding their annotation, or you could have it in Jamboard and they could add their sticky notes to it. You get good language out of it, like past tense, or things like I would have liked to, or yeah, you said I didn't win for the scratch card, I painted my wall, I'm proud of my wall, lots of different language that you can pull out of that. So that's a visual template in use. And then you can get them to write about it afterwards or talk about it or comment on, if you did individual ones in the classroom, you could get them to comment on each other's.
And so personalized as well to each individual student, you know, and so much emergent language to come out as well.
And you can get them to choose their own topics. Like I've just used family and friends and fun and money and whatever, but you can do different areas of their life. Like you could have mental well-being or travel. Kind of omitted travel because, well, my students don't really travel very much, but also who's traveling these days? So,
but as well, like you could give them kind of an option of 10 graphics and they choose
Yes.
5 or things like that. So again, giving them that choice to talk about the things that they want to or feel
Yeah.
comfortable.
Or you could give them a list of things and get them to come up with their own icons.
Oh, nice. Flipping it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got 15 minutes. It depends if you want to do some drawing. Would the people in the chat room like to do some drawing? Or I can go over some more templates. I'll introduce the templates, but I can just talk through them if. What's the vibe on Facebook?
Love the activity, love this activity of the reflection. Super template, says Bhavna. Yeah, I mean, I think if people are at home and you've got a pen and paper, I watched Emily speaking at Innovate, and I had a great time because you just pick up your colors and get drawing, and you just see how simple it is, and it doesn't need to be these really intricate designs. It's lots of easy.
So if you look at this actually, so all the drawings, especially in graphic facilitation, are very simple shapes. So this is a triangle and a circle. This is a kind of swirl. This is a square and then a rectangle and then another square and a kind of squiggly thing. This is a square and then I'm not sure what you would call that, kind of almost a rectangle. But they're mostly lines and squiggles. If you can do that, then you can draw. And when you think about it, the alphabet is also made up of lines and squiggles. So if you can write the alphabet, then you can make those shapes. Therefore, you can draw. Mm-hmm. So everybody can draw. Sorry.
No, just for some reason recently on my Instagram, when I'm scrolling through, I keep getting loads of things of people drawing animals from numbers. Like, so you start with
yes.
and then that turns it's incredible.
Yes. I also feel a bit like I've forgotten about my job because it's January, but I knew some of them. I will try and remember them for when we start drawing. But this is another visual template, which we're not really going to get time to go through because we're going to be drawing, which is going to be more fun. But goals. So there's going to be goals for 2022. You just simply draw 3 circles on the board or wherever, and then some legs, and then some arrows. So these could be your goals for the year. And here, these are the bigger goals. These are your ambitions or your dreams, or maybe something that's maybe a bit not unrealistic, but something like winning the lottery or, I don't know, traveling to the Maldives for a holiday, something like that, But yeah, you could have a bit of fun
traveling anywhere at the moment.
Yeah, well, yes, just getting out of the UK would be nice. Seeing my friends in Spain, meeting our baby properly would be lovely. And then this is the swamp I was telling you about. So I've used it before in a training session for digital skills. So getting people to think about the digital skills needed and the steps needed to log in, for example. But if, for example, one of my goals for this year is to write another book, possibly about graphic facilitation. And then what are the steps that I need to take to do that? So maybe chapter by chapter, paragraph by paragraph, drawing by drawing to get there. Okay, these are some simple drawings. This is just to remind me to get drawing with you. So I'm going to turn my visualizer on. Video, oops. Do I need to stop sharing first? So here we go. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Yes, good. Okay, so I'll start because you were talking. I'm just going to move this light. I'll start because you were talking about numbers. So this is an elephant. So it's not really a number, but it's the letter S. And then the number 3. And then a dot. And then a squiggly. And then don't worry too much about legs. a lot of drawing is just giving the impression of something. So
Yeah.
you can tell that that's an elephant, but it's just giving the impression of being an elephant.
Nice.
The other way of drawing an animal, which is quite easy, is starting with a triangle. And then another triangle. And then the number 2. Like I've done this one the wrong way round. This is January for you. So I'll start with number 2 and then the triangle. That's more like it. So a 2 and then an L and then a triangle and then another line. And that's a dog. Or it could be a cat.
Mine looks more like a fish with legs, but I need to practice a bit more, I think.
I'd love to see your fish with legs.
It's kind of a bit.
Oh, cool.
Everyone at home can go to see. Yeah, I didn't quite get his mouth in the right position, but yeah, practice. Practice makes perfect.
Practice. That's the thing. So the first time you learn to write a word, or when you learned the alphabet, you didn't just know the alphabet. It's just like learning anything.
And I think that's maybe like people, when they're teaching, they feel under pressure if they're drawing something for the first time and it doesn't work out well.
Yeah.
That kind of nervousness of, oh, yeah, I'm a terrible artist. I'm not going to draw anything ever again in class.
Yeah.
Actually practicing at home is much easier.
Yeah. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't draw. I couldn't really draw, or I couldn't draw fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really draw with the class. And now I draw every single day. So yeah, things have changed. It's all confidence and learning. And yeah. So to do a light bulb, a U shape, and light bulbs are great because you've got creativity, and then an O. These are great because you can get creativity, ideas, thoughts, switched on, energy. And then you do a Z in the middle. And then a kind of M shape. It would probably work okay with an M shape, actually. In the middle. Yeah, it would work fine with an M. So you could have an M and a Z. And then you can draw some little lines to show that it's on. A pencil is just a rectangle with a triangle attached to it at the end. Is there anything in the chat that anybody would particularly want me to draw?
Oh, we haven't had any requests. Emily is taking requests.
Always a dangerous game. Requests for easy things, please.
I mean, obviously, with a lot of these, then do you use them for instructions? I noticed you had your classroom rules before, but do you find like a lot of them make your instruction giving much easier as well?
Yeah, so things like a lot of the time I spend with beginners and literacy students, teacher, what time class? Okay, so, and then if I write time on the board, if I write just time, like 1 to 4 p.m. They don't always get it, but because time, they don't know how to read time. And yeah, some of them don't really know PM, AM.
Yeah.
So that could just be numbers to them. But if I draw a circle with an L in the middle, then that shows 1 to 4 p.m. And then they get the little light bulb that goes, yeah. Okay, I understand. Yeah, so things like that. And then you can have like the classroom would just be a door with like class 523, for example. And the door is just a kind of open rectangle with a dot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have had a request.
Okay.
Reflection.
Oh, reflection. For reflection, I would do something like just a thought bubble, and then an arrow going round the way.
Nice, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
If you're not, or any other requests?
That's it so far.
Okay. If you're not sure how to, I'm aware of time. We finish at 1:45, don't we?
1:45, or we're here for however long you would like to leave it. Just hanging
Hours
out.
and hours of drawing. It's a dangerous game. Trying to think of other, okay, book, for example. Books are very important to know how to draw as an English language teacher. What I quite like doing, actually, my students aren't, some of them don't have great study skills. So I will, on the whiteboard, if I want to show them how to draw a notebook, if I want to show them exactly how to lay something out, I'll just draw a notebook for them, which is a rectangle, and then some little C shapes. And then I'll put things like date, and then the topic. I'd write whatever the topic is, and then I'd maybe lay out exactly how I would want them to lay it out, and then they would copy
A lot
that.
of study skills for
Yeah,
them to use as well, yeah.
yeah.
We've had a couple more requests.
Okay.
So the kind of the basics: read, write, listen, speak, draw.
Aha, okay.
How would you do those?
Okay, so read would be, okay, maybe need new paper. So I normally just use A3 reams of paper, and I go through a lot of them. So for reading, I would draw a person, which is just an N with a, and then they're looking down the way. And then kind of like how you would draw birds when you were a kid. And a line, 2 lines down the way. That would be reading. And then you could have hands, you can have a hand like that. Or if you want, you could have a hand like that.
Fab.
That would be reading. And then writing would be a rectangle. And the trick is with the writing is to leave a space before you do your pen or your pencil. So yeah, if you want to pen, just add an extra rectangle at the top and then an L.
There's such simple little hacks, but
yeah,
effective as well.
Yeah. So yeah, graphic facilitators are about very simple, keeping it as simple as possible, not showing off, not necessarily being artistic, just getting the point across. So reading, writing, speaking is just a speech bubble. You could add a person underneath it if you wanted, or you could add 2 people underneath it. Give it like, have it a double speech bubble. And what was it? Reading, writing, speaking, listening,
and draw.
Drawing. Oh. The ears like a question mark with another question mark or a 3 inside it, and then you can have sounds like that, or you can have a person wearing a set of headphones for listening as well. And drawing is a bit hard because what are you drawing? That's the difficulty. But, so I would probably draw a drawing with a flip chart. So to draw a flip chart, you have a squinty rectangle and then another one at the back, and a line here. And if you wanted, you can add the actual paper onto the flip chart. And then you can have a person, people, you can have people that are N-shaped. You can have people of various different shapes that are one step up from stick man, or stick people. And it just makes you look a little bit more like you're able to draw. So I can show you a few little ways to do them as well. So drawing, and then I'd maybe just draw a tree or something simple like that. And then give the person a pen.
Yep. So Katrina said, I ask my non-literate learners to draw, but they don't seem to get it when we're in an online class.
Mm.
And I guess it's much more difficult when you're not in the physical space with people sometimes to
I
get
think with draw, I would maybe just demonstrate it by drawing something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
It's funny that drawing's probably one of the hardest things to do, to convey.
Yeah. Yeah, because like you say, like what are you drawing?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's in a question as well, do you also use drawings to teach grammar points?
Yes, I do. So on social media recently, I'll just come out of this and I'll come back out of, I'll come back so you can see my face again. So yeah, on social media recently, I had, you'll notice I have it, GIFs. I quite like using GIFs because my students don't have a lot of data. GIFs save a lot of data. You can basically just make them with PowerPoint slides. And they're good ways to review. So the GIF that I've got, or one of the GIFs is Present Simple, and it's basically a picture of routines, a picture of timetables, a picture of what are the other things that Present Simple has? Routines, timetables.
The frequency, or is that not quite?
That would be routines or
True.
Things you do often. There's 3 or 4 things and it reviews them. I also use it as visual prompts. So for example, when I'm teaching daily routine, I've got, it's like, maybe I'll need to go back to this. So when I'm teaching daily routine, I've got maybe from morning, afternoon, evening. And then I find that my students really struggle with AM, PM and evening. So we'll do something like AM is the sun coming up. And then PM is the sun is full in the sky, just like it always is in Scotland, obviously. And then in the evening, it'd be sun going down, just to remind them. And then I'd give them some pictures, like I'd give them some icons like yeah, maybe have a cup of coffee and brush your teeth, that kind of thing. And then they can put them in the right place. In Jamboard, they can move them around. They can draw them themselves, or they can just use them as speaking prompts. I'd really need to show you the pictures to be able to fully understand it, really.
No, but I mean, you get the idea. Yeah, that idea of having the visuals for them to put them in the right position and
they can they move them around, and then they can. I also use it for it's great for teaching like question prompts, like what, when, where, who. So when, and then they have to make a question with when. Who would be, you have to make a question with who. Where, it's kind of like a Google Maps location point.
Yeah.
Where, who, what. What is difficult, why is a bit difficult, I suppose. But those, you get the idea from them. It will maybe be representing the actual question, like the content of the question rather than the question word.
And again, if it's something that you kind of train your learners into using, then they'll become familiar. Right, I see that kind of Pavlovian dog response. I see this image, so I do this thing.
Yeah.
Or that image means this question, or things like that.
Yeah, it's really great actually for rubrics. A lot of the time I find that my students, when they take worksheets home with them, they don't necessarily understand what their homework is. But if you kind of put an icon besides the homework, like listen or read or match with a couple of arrows, then they'll definitely understand what their homework is. So yeah, lots of different ways it can be used.
And I suppose as well, like going back to the idea of grammar points, timelines at their very basic level, when you used to have the eye kind of looking forwards or looking back.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll just, because I guess I need to kind of wrap up. So I'll just quickly share. So my online class starts in a couple of weeks. Oh, actually, no, I've got one more thing. So if you're not sure about an icon, I would recommend just Googling study skills icon. It's much easier to copy an icon than it is clip art or a Google image with a picture or a photograph. The Noun project is loaded with icons. It's basically a search engine for icons for graphic designers, and it's a great place for inspiration. So my online course starts on the 17th of January. It's a 6-week course. It's a group program, so I'm keeping it small, and it's almost full. So if you want to come along, then I would advise booking very soon. As I mentioned before, it will rejuvenate your teaching mojo. At the moment, there are 12 drawing videos, but every time I plan to increase them every time I do that. So I've already got a couple of subjects that I know are missing in there that I want to add. Lots and lots of tutor support from me. There's a class Facebook group, and actually the previous course, the Facebook group is still open, it's still live, people are still posting things in it, and they've become quite a little network of graphic facilitation enthusiasts. So yeah, it's really great to see that still open and still learning. It starts on the 17th of January. Lots of classroom ideas and techniques. So basically this is just a very brief taster of some of the things that are in it. There are 4 90-minute classes on Zoom, and we'll work a lot on building your visual dictionary. So a visual dictionary for graphic facilitators, your visual dictionary is much like a vocabulary notebook for English language teachers, but it's visuals. So you'll learn lots of different icons. So for example, the light bulb, the laptop, the notebook. So I've taught you a few of these today, but you just add to them, and the more that you know how to draw, the faster you become. I've also got a resource bank of ELT themed content on Padlet. So basically every time I see any blog posts or articles or research, I put it on my Padlet, and so I'll share that with you. So yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to ask away.
Nothing's coming as yet. Lots of kind of nice ideas, and thanks for the easy templates and things. And I suppose obviously you're running the course now, starting a week on Monday, but then there'll be another one.
Yeah, I think there'll probably be one in spring as well. Probably one April, May-ish time. Maybe just after the Easter holidays, that kind of thing. And then probably again in August. Those are my goals for the year. Have more of these. Because yeah, I really do believe that it's a great way to teach. And yeah.
And anyone, if you're on Twitter as well, I do suggest checking out the drawing ELT hashtag. Well,
hashtag drawing ELT. Yeah.
Is it just on Twitter or is it on LinkedIn?
It never really took off on LinkedIn. I don't think and I think people on LinkedIn didn't really want to share their little drawings because it's quite more professional. I don't know. Whereas Twitter is a bit more relaxed. So yeah, it's very prominent on Twitter, but not so much on. So I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. If anyone wants to follow me as well, you can actually. If you go to my website, emilybrysonelt.com, you'll get the hashtag not a gingerbread man templates, which you probably don't want to do now because they're mostly festive themed. In fact, they're all festive themed. But you might get an idea and be able to draw the other half of something for the rest of the year.
And you could do them like it could be kind of not a heart for Valentine's Day as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It could, not a recycling bin. This is inspired by ELT Footprint. And their ELT Can Do Eco. So I made a little lesson on recycling and using the icon. So you can get that from my website, emilybrysonelt.com, if you go to the freebies tab.
I'll share a link to that at the beginning of the video chat as well.
Yeah, great.
Fantastic. Well, no questions have come in as yet. If anybody's watching us on catch up, obviously leave a little hashtag catch up. And if you've got a question, probably best to tag either Emily or I so that we can actually see it. Sometimes comments get a bit lost on the videos, but huge thanks, Emily, for coming along, and thanks for kicking off the year with lots of inspiring ideas.
Yeah, thanks for having me on and helping me kick off my own year. What?
Now we're both back in work mode, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, now I can remember how to draw that dog the correct way around.
Cool. Well, yep, everyone, thanks for anyone who's been watching with us today. And we'll be back next week on Thursday with a coffee break. And then on the 20th of January, I think it's Nerdigi's Kern. Yeah, she's coming along to talk about virtual reality in ELT. So lots of exciting things coming up in the hub this year. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.